taxation. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I guess I'll start out. As most of you know, I'm not the regular chair, so I'll stumble through this the best I can, and I think we can make a go of it. But I guess the roll call will start with everybody is present except for Mr. Schultz, Mr. Schmidt, and Ms. Maloney. Next on the agenda, we have to approve the agenda. Look for a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Mueller and seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the agenda as presented. Public comments, Mr. Myhock, do you
Nope.
have any public comments?
No one that signed up.
Okay. Next on the agenda then, we have the superintendent's report, Mr. Myhock.
Yeah, thanks. I'll introduce Liz here in just one moment, but I did assign Mr. Bunn to football, JV football game supervision tonight. Our JV is playing JWP, the varsity played on Friday night, so I thought it was important that Mr. Bunn be present in the area for supervision. So he gave me 4 things to report on. Just a reminder that homecoming is scheduled for October 7th, or that week, 7th of Monday. I believe 7th would be the Friday, but homecoming week would be different activities taking place throughout the week. There's a home volleyball game on the Tuesday night, and then the home football game on Friday night. They are still looking for some convertibles for the parade, if you know of any. The second thing he asked to talk about was we do have a new E-Hollway pass system that was incorporated this year and implemented this year. That's up and running, and so far the report is that there are less kids in the hallway. There's glitches to work out, and it's not perfected yet, but it's fulfilling the purpose of monitoring kids and hopefully getting kids to class, helping kids get to class and be accounted for and accountable for their time. The competition cheer team did perform at the U of M, the Gopher football game during halftime. I believe that was not this past Saturday, but the weekend before that. Nice to have our school and our district represented at that. And then finally, we have a Swiss program that the high school is putting into place. The Swiss program is a record-keeping, behavior record-keeping that typically goes along with like a PBIS system. It's affiliated with PBIS, but obviously you don't have to be a PBIS school to purchase the program, but a good way to report behaviors and have follow-up and communicate with the staff and administration on behaviors that are taking place. So that is Mr. Bunn's report for the month. I'm going to jump over to Liz, and as I said, that Liz is going to present. She came to me last year and discussed a therapy dog concept, and she has some information she'd like to share with you on that.
Well, good evening. Okay, so what I just handed you all is just kind of a one-pager summary of what I'm going to go over tonight. And these are just kind of the high points, and of course, make notes. I hope you guys ask questions. And of course, yeah, like I said, so I'm excited to be here to present this. This is a unique opportunity for NRHEG, but not one that's first of its kind. And so this idea came to me probably about 5 years ago. Prior to my role as a school counselor, I worked as a clinical mental health therapist. And in that capacity, I was really just kind of intrigued with that idea of having kind of that animal-assisted therapy in my practice. Well, I'm here as a school counselor now, so I'm like, well, what a beautiful way to kind of integrate those goals and plans into kind of the bigger scope as I moved into this capacity to reach more kids. As a therapist, I had such a small caseload, and it was heavy stuff at times. So becoming a school counselor was kind of like the best of both worlds. I can help students with the challenging times, but I can really help and embrace and watch students succeed in the happy times as well. Of course, mental health is a huge push right now, and so the animal-assisted therapy is something that's really a growing trend, and we're really fortunate that we do have some people nearby in our neighboring districts that have kind of led the way in some of this. Well, we're gonna be a push down. That's okay. Okay, so first letting you know a little bit about what this is. So Pet Partners is that's the angle that I have for getting my dog certified. His name is Buxley, and there's kind of 3 categories that will fit the bill and the purpose that he would serve at NRHEG in his capacity, okay? So we have the therapy animal. So in overall, that overarching umbrella, what is this? He would be a therapy animal. And what that means is he's gonna provide physical, psychological, and emotional benefits to our students, to our staff, to families. So he is kind of an all-service animal. So he can do this in a lot of capacities. Of course, I'm focusing on the school side, okay? You know, animal therapy is used, there's a really, really broad range, but for our purpose, he'll be a dog. So who is he? He's a golden doodle. He's very sweet. He was born on Valentine's Day of this year, so that's super easy to remember. His dad was a standard poodle, mom was a golden doodle, and he's expected to be about 50 pounds, non-shedding, hypoallergenic, and we say that loosely because animals are animals, so that's a little bit about him for now. So what would he do? What would he do for us in our building? So, according to Pet Partners, they break it down so that idea, that concept of a therapy dog can be a little misleading. It's kind of heavy on that therapy side, where people put a lot of emphasis. But once again, there's a much broader picture of what he can do to service our district. So, animal-assisted activities. So providing opportunities for motivational, educational, or recreational benefits to enhance quality of life. So this would be done by me in handling him to assist in the classroom, just at school. So students that need to depart from the classroom, by them coming to my office, you know, I will help them with Buxley in self-regulation, coping skills, and hopefully in time, and you'll kind of see when we get to the goals side of this, having a quicker turnaround time, that it's less time missed in the classroom, and quicker visits, that I can kind of de-escalate situations quicker, okay? So the animal-assisted workplace, so this is boosting employee morale, satisfaction, and increasing productivity with our staff. So once again, we kind of get to hit a lot of different areas. Not only are we working with the students, we're working with staff and families as well that come through. So studies have shown that when people take just a few minutes to pet an animal, their stress is reduced. Research also shows that animals in the workplace often lead to more productive coworker interaction, increased trust between your colleagues, and more effective collaboration. And sometimes our dog is who we need to talk to problem solve. And no judgment, right? And the third piece that Buxley would really fit the bill for would be the animal-related engagement. So it's an engagement opportunity that allows participants the benefits of the human-animal bond by encouraging the remembrance of feelings that are most commonly associated with interaction with an animal. So if you guys have pets at home, I mean, you guys can feel and understand what the benefit of that is. And when you get into a school building where overstimulation can take place, just big emotions that you don't know how to process, this would be a really great strategy to help these students, again, self-regulate and find that little piece of home and comfort in a place that may not be comfortable. So, who else is doing this? Blue Earth just welcomed their pet, their therapy animal, Frankie. Isn't he cute? So that got implemented this year. Also, he's a miniature golden doodle. Mine's a standard. So Blue Earth has Frankie. Forest Lake has Oliver. one from most of them, just to give you a quick understanding. But this one from Forest Lake says sometimes 4 kids who don't know each other will be petting Oliver or taking turns petting him, and then they will connect with each other. So it helps build community within the classroom. So once again, we connect with people that we find things in common with. And for the most part, most people like animals. New Ulm, they have Bella. In Hopkins, they have Little Miss Danny. So this is community dog promoting relationships between students, offering emotional support such as de-escalation, coping with daily stress, and processing emotions to succeed in school. In Matamidi, they have Riley and Piper. So their therapy dog program helps promote both social and academic benefits by inspiring laughter, fun, improving connection, in coursework and classes, and promoting positive interactions between students. In Lakeville, they have Hero. And this is the elementary school, so it's so they use their dog to bond with a range of instructional and non-instructional areas. So student engagement, decreasing anxiety, increasing student motivation, and then just reinforcing skills and providing unique experiences. So what can Buxley do for us? That's him as a little puppy. He's got a lot bigger, but he's a cute little fluff ball. So emotional support, boosting morale in our building, and I mean that on the big scale of things, okay? Talking everybody involved in our building, building rapport with students. I just envision this being a really great tool for me, just within my own office, for students who don't know me. Okay, we're talking 6th graders that are coming in. They know Brooke. Brooke is in this building, and they all love Brooke. I love Brooke. And what a great tool to have something else in our pocket to connect with students. Brooke's one person, she can't do everything, and I want to help take some of that load off of her. High school students who kind of maybe still have a stigma of what it is to go talk to the counselor. Okay, this is one way to start breaking some of those barriers. It gives us that neutral common ground. Okay, improving mental health, improving time spent in the classroom, productivity, and then offering that sense of home and comfort at school. So as you can tell, these are some really, really positive things that Buxley can offer us, and it's what other neighboring districts are experiencing within their own buildings as well. So how would this look? Buxley would work no more than 3 days a week. So, well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll say. Okay, that's all that a therapy animal really would need to work. Okay, I would serve as his only handler, so I would be the only one that can really take care of him and work with him during the school day, just for safety, for him, for me, for the students. I'm hoping, so in my office, and we'll get creative when the time would come, he would have his own spot. He would just have his little Buxley corner for him to kind of have his grounding place, his place to rest, if he's not needed or wanted at the time. And then, of course, that expected place that everybody knows this is where he's at, where he should be, things like that. Of course, we would establish boundaries within the building that he would not have access to. So the obvious places would be like the kitchens, shop. We don't need any tool incidences or anything. So we would establish some boundaries for him and where he would have access. Traveling to classrooms. So I know a lot of our staff members work with just mental health. They talk about mental health, and so he would be a resource for going into the classrooms, invited, of course. Something that we could spill over into the elementary. This would be an opportunity for them too, if I came over for half a day, once a month, every other month, whatever it may be, to serve the same purpose, but at the elementary level. Okay, so 3 days a week would be his full-time schedule. And truth be told, it's a dog in a school, so there's things we need to be cautious about, okay? Allergies, although he's hypoallergenic, non-shedding, he's a dog. I mean, you know, we'll be mindful of that. I will be taking care of all the maintenance with the dog, and I know I get to this, but I will be maintaining all the health, safety, bathing, the wellness of Buxley, keeping in mind those that have a fear of dogs. And so what I envision with this, with the allergies, fear of dogs, or just like blatant no interest in working with him, would be essentially an opt-out form. So when talking to other schools, it's easier to figure out who does not want to work with him than who does. So keeping that list of like absolutely not, Susie cannot interact with the dog, I'll keep a file of that, and that'll be up to me to manage their preferences, their safety, and not engaging with Buxley. Of course, we have just life, fire drills, tornado drills, anything like that. I've been working with Buxley to get desensitized to that, and that would be stuff that we would practice. And when I say desensitized, to the noise. So the lights flashing, the noise, things like that. So there wouldn't be a reaction from Buxley regarding that. So he would participate in all of those drills just as much as the rest of us. That included lockdown as well. Cleanliness, talked about that. I would manage all of his health, wellness, safety, things like that. In school, noise and barking. He's not really a barking kind of dog, but again, he is a dog. So with his training and the certification, he'd really be trained to have his reasons for any of that level of noise. So I'd work with him on that, accidental injury. With that being said, insurance, I would have to carry insurance, and I would carry insurance on him. And I would do that through, there's a couple different places I could do that with, but I would carry insurance on him with that. So my role in this would be providing a safe and welcoming environment for the students, staff, families, and Buxley. Keep up to date with shots, wellness checks, bathing, carrying insurance at all times. My plan is to get certified through Pet Partners. I would manage all the opt-out forms for students who cannot or do not want to work with Buxley. And then I will accrue all the costs related to him and his service to NRHEG. So the cost of him himself, food, management, insurance, training, everything, I would accrue that cost. So if all else fails, okay, we'll try to make adjustments first, see what we can work out, see if we can find a different way to approach things, to do things. And if no resolution can be made, worst case scenario, we just dissolve his role. And he's a great napper. Him and my daughter do well together with that, so. Any questions that you guys have right away?
So did you buy Buxley with intention of this, or you just like that breed, or?
Nope, I bought him with the intention of becoming a therapy dog.
Okay.
So part of the certification process would be, so he's already done 3 rounds of training. He had puppy manners and we took advanced manners twice. And then it was to the point that, okay, I needed to find out for sure, are you gonna be a good fit for this? Like, is it worth the investment to keep going? Do we have the mannerisms, the temperament to do that? He does. So the first step would be getting his CGC, so his Canine Good Citizen Test certification, saying there's 10 things he has to pass in order to get that. From there, then I would have to go through some more training, and part of that training is not only like more specializing and just like the noise, the distractions, following commands, things like that, but him and I have to have that bond too. So the minimum requirement for the certification would be 6 months of it. 6 months of age, now I'm blanking. I think he had to live with me for 6, that's what it is. He had to live with me for 6 months and be at least 1 year of age. So that's where, I was probably getting the dog anyway, but the big purpose was to do this. And so by doing that, he couldn't really go into full effect until next school year. So it would be fall 2023. And then if he does do really well, and I can get him certified a month or so after his first birthday, then we can negotiate if we do like a trial 1 day a week for 4 weeks thing or something, just to start that transition. But that's a future us problem, hopefully. So there's a long answer to your
Well,
question.
the reason I ask, I have a 4-year-old golden doodle, and he's excellent. So I think you've got the right breed, because he doesn't shed at all. You know, you talk about hyperallergenic or whatever, but he simply wants to be around people.
Yep.
You know, so I think it's a great idea myself. They're a good breed.
Yeah, and he truly is doing very, very well. He's 6 months old. I'll be honest, the first round of advanced manners didn't go well, and I was like, what am I doing? And then we immediately popped into the next one, and he did phenomenal. And I'm just like, are you just messing with me? Like, I don't know, but he has actually done very, very well. But I got a golden doodle, specifically that breed, for this purpose.
Yeah.
And then I got him hoping that this works out. So we'll get to that. So any other questions?
So when you talk about the Buxton or Buxley going into different rooms, would you be the one that accompanies him then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be negative, I think this is a great idea, but I mean, well, was that gonna take away from the other things you usually did? Or, I mean, you have a lot of hats, you do a lot of things, Liz, so.
I do.
I'm
And
just like-
what a beautiful way to
De-stress?
yes, not only that, but you know, if we can just, I don't know, it's just, there's something about that idea of just having him there in the long run will probably make things easier, right? We talk
Yeah.
about that front loading, kind of that investment for a long-term gain. It's that same concept. If I build that rapport and that relationship, and truth be told, yeah, I'm all over the place all the time. I do a lot of things, but I don't foresee it necessarily causing any issues, because students will, if they benefit from Buxley, and it's like, okay, it's somebody else's turn to benefit from him, and they just have that deeper understanding and appreciation for him and what it does for other people, therefore then they give me a little bit of grace if they have to come back later or whatever, but I don't know, I have pretty good with my students right now, so, and as far as like my other job duties, I'll get it done, always do, so, yeah.
So if Buxley's needed in a classroom, they'll call you and say, hey, we're having an issue with some students, can you bring Buxley down and see if it calms the students down, or, and so are you gonna have a time slot, I'll be there for 5 minutes, or I'll be there as long as it takes, or what kind of protocol would you have for time spent in the classroom?
Yeah, so I actually envision that specific scenario flipped. Like, hey, I have a student that's having an issue and they really just need to come and decompress. They would come to me.
Okay.
Yep, in that situation. And as far as like time spent in the classroom, you know, I think of, now, they don't do this all the time, but you know, that day that everyone's just checked out and it's like, okay, we're gonna get through lecture and then we're gonna spend the last 20 minutes and just kind of unwind and decompress. Or if they had that schedule, they could say, hey Liz, are you available on October 17th to come in my second hour with the dog and just kind of hang out? Sure, put it in my calendar. It's no different than me doing all my my classroom presentations, and honestly even, you know, covering for teachers or whatever. It would look no different than that. It's just, that's my classroom time and I will be in a classroom during that hour. Because I'm fortunate too, I have art in my office too for any major things that come through, or, and truth be told, yeah. And now for going into 4 years, I haven't had anything like life-threatening come through my office yet. Not to say it's not gonna happen one of these days, but I don't know. I feel like I have it pretty good. I mean, everyone's just been very kind and respectful, and I think this will just continue to add to that.
So that he won't have kind of free reign of the building, he'll be kind of, I don't want to say confined, but he'll stay in your space?
Yeah, and if we're out, he'll just be with me. He'll have his leash, he'll have his commands, to just stay right next to me, or they can get trained to sit right under my legs. So, yeah, but when we're out and about, you know, I envision even just passing time, just going out and just finding different places just to land, to greet people as they come by. Having him with me during that passing time. He'll just be right next to me saying hello, good morning, when buses get dropped off. To even just start getting the idea of the students getting on and off the bus. And for me to start building that rapport, so when these kindergarten through 6th graders eventually come through our doors, you're the lady with the dog. yes I am, hi, you know, things like that. So he would never have free reign, nor would he ever be left unattended. And that's just a safety thing for everybody involved. And then of course, you know, bathroom breaks for him and stuff, we would talk a designated area for me to take him out, you know, however much he needs, but that's quick. And it's winter, so he doesn't really care for rain, so I can't wait for the snow. So.
What kind of salary is he demanding?
He's needy. He loves treats. Anything squishy. He eats all the stuffing, so preferably no plush, but if he had it his way, he would prefer that. Treats and pets.
Yes.
And a nap. He likes to nap. But I have 2 kids, so they don't let him nap very much on the weekends.
What's the next step for us that, obviously you said you get this other test and some more training, the year requirement that.
So in an ideal situation, if you guys all agree and say, yeah, this is amazing, let's do it, I would move forward with all the training and everything. So at this point, I'll be honest, I put a pause on it, because it's like, if this isn't gonna work out, I'm not gonna keep investing into something that's not gonna happen. But if it does, then I'll continue on with my training. We'll hopefully reconvene then maybe this spring, talk about doing like a trial run. If he does pass everything, gets through the certification part, to kind of have that 3 to 4 week, 1 day a week trial run. And then our current seniors will have an opportunity, because they're a little disappointed that if it works out that they don't get to be here for it. So, so for your guys' next step, from my perspective, it would just be great if you guys just had a conversation, you know, if you had any more questions, do what you guys need to do to figure out if this is gonna be a good fit and if it's feasible for our district. And then from there, just kind of let me know what questions you have, if you guys come to a decision, and then that decision will drive if I kind of conclude the work that I'm doing with him, or if I continue on and kind of get that more specialized training for him in order to be successful with the certification process.
If you are in a classroom, does that create a distraction for the rest of the students, or and does it disrupt the class as somebody's going, where, oh, they're over there, and they're supposed to be.
Sure. Well, I think initially, you know, if this goes into play, initially, yeah, there's gonna be some excitement and what about. But like anything, any newness wears off. They just become a part of the process, right? And, you know, eventually, you know, I might be sought out initially for the dog, but pretty soon it's, you know, he's just a bonus to coming in. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna come see me for something anyway, and Bucks just happens to be here for you to pet and talk to me, get your questions answered, hang out, do your homework, whatever it is. In the classroom, you know, it would be teacher discretion to the invite to why I'm there. And my guess would be that invite wouldn't be surrounding lecture or content work. It would be more of that low-key, wind down energy, do what you need to do, stay quiet, but relax.
Keep busy.
Yeah.
Well, I see it's, go ahead. Well, I see it's not on the,
Right.
it's not, you know, up for vote right now, the way
Right.
it looks, so.
No, and my notes here too are the next steps that Sue and I will put something on for maybe February or March. But in the meantime, you'll kind of come back and reconvene like you said, but in the meantime, it's things that I can put in the newsletter just to continue conversations, and maybe October, maybe November, we would make that an action item to allow this for
So she can
program or.
move forward if she,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I think next one of the
Put it
next
for
meetings, yeah.
October?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we can fill in the people that are here tonight, but.
Okay,
I have cheat sheets for them if you want an extra copy, otherwise you guys.
I just see,
Copies?
do you ever think, well, this would be a problem for me if I was a student, that I'd probably just want to be needy so I could go see the dog. It's like, I would tell my teacher, you know, oh, Mrs. Engel, I just really had a bad time last night, I need to go see us.
Well, and that's the benefit to having 3 days a week.
As a teacher.
It's not an everyday luxury.
Right.
And I mean, I got my kids that already try to play that card and want to just come sit and hang out, and it's just like, no, like, get out of here. And they just kind of look at me like, like busted, and then they're on their way. So again, that just kind of speaks a little bit too, that I feel confident in the relationships that I have with the kids, that if they need a little, like, come on, move it, like, you're playing me, like, they're okay, and it's just not an issue. And if it does become an issue, I mean, I'll take care of it. It's whatever. But like I said, it's meant to be just another tool for me, a resource for our students and our staff, and there's going to be boundaries and limits with it. You know, we're going to have some just clear expectations. But like I said, anything new, it's fun and exciting at first, but eventually it's just like, all right, he's just part of the group now and part of the process, and it's still fun and exciting, but it's not, hopefully, you know, pulling away from the important stuff as to why we're at school.
I think it's a great idea, so it's just
I do.
joking a little bit.
Yeah.
'Cause that would
I
be-
mean, with all the kids have been through the last few years, I think maybe this would help some of them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, there's something about it when you come home and having a pet. It's just the best thing
And
in
they
the world.
puked all over and ate your shoes.
Well, they're still, they don't, they're good animals. I love our dogs, so, and I can see that with the kids too, taking ownership with that at the school. It's just like, it's their dogs.
And that's, like I say, I've got one, and they're an excellent dog. You know, we've been, people have wanted to buy him from us, you know, of course.
Jeepers.
But,
No way.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're a good breed, he'll be
You
fine.
can give me tips on how to get him to quit eating socks. That would be great.
A lot of it is age.
Okay, good, because
Peppermint spray?
we're down a good solid probably 2 pair of socks right now. So that's his thing. Socks and butterflies are his 2 favorite things. So, yes, but that's all I got.
Very good.
Well, thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you.
thank you guys. All right, you're good,
Next, we have,
Actually, we had one more report here, Mr. Kubetsky, if we would.
Making me follow the dogs.
That's right.
yeah.
I can't compete with Buxley, so I mean, it's gonna be. No, I think we're 9 days in here at the elementary, and I think so far, I think things are going okay. I think the honeymoon is starting to wane a little bit, but not a whole lot to report. Very similar to Mr. Bunn, we are planning for that the homecoming on October 7th, and putting the parade together and planning that and getting all the permits out for that. I sent that today, so I think it's a 12:30 parade. So I'll be excited to have the high school band shooters coming over for a pep rally and doing all that. We have a couple runners so far in the beginning of the school year. So we very quickly, and Mr. Myhock was very fortunate to be part of one of those, but we really recognize the need for more radios in the building to get paras that are following students around. So we just sent that quote out today, and we will have more radios, I believe, by the middle of the week. So yeah, that's going to be important for us. But those are kind of the two items. And lastly, Mr. Bainan, our 3rd grade teacher, is continuing with Panther of the Week, and he'll submit a name, and teachers submit names to him, and kind of somebody that shows exemplary learning and behavior and things like that. So so far it's been a pretty decent start, but sometimes I'm insulated from comments. So, but yeah,
Very good.
that's
Thank
all we
you.
got.
Thank you. Okay,
That
so-
wraps up.
Okay, so now then on to board member comments. Do we have? I will say one thing. I guess I've heard. I've got a junior in high school here, and he came home and told my wife he kind of was apologetic because he thinks he's going to run his lunch bill up pretty good. So I've heard some pretty positive things about the food, and of course we gave him the green light because he's pretty narrow yet, so he can eat some, but anyway, that's been going real good way, and I've heard that from other people as well, not just my son, but, things are going pretty good there, the way, the comments I've gotten.
Yeah, the pictures I think you sent out was in the newsletter, look
Look
really
nice.
good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
They're working very hard, and both sites have, there's obviously different things happening at the secondary than the elementary, but the choices, the entrees that are taking place here as well, that it's a nice addition with some of the snacks and birthday treats, that programs that are out there as well, just some things for students to take advantage of and be part of as well, so. Thank you for those comments.
Yep. Anything else? I guess if not, looks like the next regular school board meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 17th, 2022 at the Secondary School Media Center at 6:30. And then next, I guess, on the list from there is consent agenda items. Mr. Myhock, can you
Yep.
touch on some of that?
Yep, as always, the consent agenda, information has been provided to the school board members, and we'll act on all of these items as a whole rather than voting on them separately. If there are any items that you wish to have removed from the consent agenda, now would be the appropriate time to ask for that. And if there are none, then before we approve the consent agenda, let's take a moment just to recognize the donations that have come in. And there is a very healthy list here, so I'll quickly just go through. We had 2 anonymous donations for a handicap swing of $750 apiece. Our First Lutheran Church of Ellendale donated $50 towards our school supplies and backpack project. Community Lutheran, $30 donation for our REACH program. America's Farmers Grow Communities, a $5,000 donation for Eagle Bluff, and then Wisconsin Power and Light also had a $100 donation for our Eagle Bluff trip. NRHEG Basketball donated $1,800 for the Huddle program. Star Eagle Publications, a $40 donation. NRHEG PTO donated $100 for classrooms, supplies and donations. Brian and Jodelle Wayne, a $200 donation for our REACH program. America's Farmers Grow Communities, another $5,000 grant for our STEAM program. Wings at Work, a $3,500 donation for school supplies. The Football Boosters, same program for the football program, $199 to go towards that Huddle program. This next one, a $53,000 donation through different connections with Mr. Zidlicki, our new band director. Hormel had a kind of a clearance free sale, or a freebie sale, that office chairs, desks, storage units and whatnot, we're recycling, getting new, and through this connection, again, we were lucky enough to get in on it, and Mr. Kopetsky and Mr. Bunn took a trip over and took a look at the warehouse and just kind of did their pointing. We'll take this and this and this, and $53,000 worth of equipment and furniture later. 2 trips to Austin and back with a trailer and pickups. We got everything back here, so a very nice situation for us. PTO threw in $2,000 for the Eagle Bluff trip, as did the ECAG Panther Pride, $515 for that Eagle Bluff trip. Travis Ladwig donated $55 for our elementary food cart, and Andy and Kelly Vanel, $110 donation for our elementary food cart. $73,199 was recognized in donation, making our year-to-date total of $85,210. And with that, I'll throw the consent agenda to you for your approval.
So unless anybody wants to pull anything aside, do we have a motion and second for the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Engel and seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? next on the agenda, Mr. Myhock, looks like we have some finance.
Yeah, Carla, did you have anything to add to that before? Any information to share? Okay. You'll be asked to certify the maximum levy authority for 2022 payable 2023. The Minnesota Department of Education levy limitation and certification 2022 payable 2023 data report is included in your board packet. Again, this is a yearly approval process. The big thing to keep in mind, obviously, part of the levies that we've been talking with, the abatement bonds and the parking lot and the LTFM bonds, things of that sort are included in this levy. And the total dollar amount, I think the big thing to keep in mind is while there's an increase in our max levy, there's also a larger portion and a substantial funding that comes from the state with the ag to school credit that would be kicked in once the county gets involved and does their magic with it. So I would ask for your approval and certifying the maximum levy as presented in the report.
Do we have a motion for the maximum levy authority for 2022 payable 2023?
I'll move to approve the maximum levy for 22-23.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock and seconded by Mr. Mueller for the maximum levy authority for 2022 payable 2023. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Very good, thank you.
So it looks like next on the list, we have Truth and Taxation hearing date, December 19th, 2022 at 6 o'clock in the Secondary Media Center.
You said it all.
Okay.
Yep. Just if you're good with that date, you approve it and we'll put it on the official calendar.
Okay. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mueller and seconded by Mrs. Engel for the Truth and Taxation meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the finance list, we have a lease agreement with the city of Richland.
Yeah, we currently have, or we've had lease agreements with the city again, using the ball fields, the softball field and the baseball field. And the Buildings and Ground Committee agreed to create or seek entering into a lease agreement, again, using LTFM funds with the city for the improvements and required improvements that are needed down there to continue to play. The city will consider our proposal of a 5-year, $50,000 lease with the understanding that the fencing and dugout replacement be completed with those funds. I asked the board to approve that recommendation of this Buildings and Grounds Committee and of myself to enter into a 5-year, $50,000 lease with the city of New Richland pending city council approval.
Can I get one clarification?
You may.
Is that 5 years for like 10,000 each year, or is that 5 years? That's 50,000 total over the 5 years, correct?
It's 50,000 over 5 years, but it would be $50,000 paid in a lump sum to start with, so those projects can get completed prior to the start of the sports season.
Okay, I just wanted that,
Yep.
if it was for the full 5 years, or if it was 50,000 per year.
The projects that are in place are the projects being discussed that need attention and need improvement equal roughly $150,000. Of the organizations involved, the $50,000 was obviously a fair and appropriate contribution for the school district using the field. The city and the city administrator are, again, talking budget, and he has plans and proposals that he's taken to the city council for approval as well, that would have a consistent and greatly increased line item or budget for the upkeep and maintenance of the baseball softball complex.
What was our previous lease? What was the cost of that?
I don't think it was much, was it, $10 or something?
A little bit higher than 10, but
It
less
was
than
a little
50.
higher.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we had agreements that we were gonna do.
So, yeah, so a few years back, we needed to improve the softball field. So we did the same thing. We said we need to put 30 grand into that field, so we wrote a check out for 30,000 because we can't pay the fencing company or the scoreboard company to buy things
It's
to
not,
put on property
it's
we don't
not our
own.
property, yeah.
So we did this before. And then of late, what we did is we went to them and said, we're gonna take over the spring maintenance, the mowing, the weed control and whatnot, and take that off of you during the school season, because it just frankly, it wasn't getting done the way, it was getting done to a park standard, not a competitive baseball team standard. So we want to mow it 3 times a week, I guess, when grass is growing instead of 1. And so then the theory was, we'll do that, and then those dollars you would say we'd like you to just put back into some of the upkeep. So no money exchanged hands between us and the city. We just contracted out the mowing and then met once in a while and said, okay, now what are you guys doing? Like, this is what we want to do, whatnot. So now we're to where we need to do some things sooner rather than later.
I'd add to that too, in the past, there obviously has been some contributions made by the city and then potentially other organizations. This one feels a little bit more positive, more equal, that, like I said, there's roughly $150,000, maybe up to $170,000 of improvements that have been identified, that's not all on the school district, that is being addressed through the city, addressed through clubs, associations seeking donations and things of that sort. So it's, you know, there's always a question or debate about should we purchase that and take over everything, and that obviously would have a very large dollar amount to it as well. So this seems to be the appropriate measures to take to make sure that we can maintain the facilities in the appropriate way and not have to carry the full financial burden with it.
I guess unless there's other questions, I guess I'd look for a motion on the lease agreement with the city of Richland.
I'll move to approve the lease with the city of Richland.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Ms. Engel for the lease agreement with the city of New Richland. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list, we have amendment to professional service agreement with Site Logic IQ.
And this is a, just kind of a follow-up. Last month, a resolution was voted upon and passed that gave me or someone within the district, I suppose it was myself or our business manager, Carla, the authority to enter and sign off on this professional service agreement. In our last meeting with Site Logic, and as we're continuing to move through the abatements and the bonds and the levy issue, on the list of LTFM bond, there are 2 different items, the middle school bleacher purchase and the retaining wall improvements that they wouldn't necessarily have to be involved with. So we'll take care of those things ourselves. You know, obviously with the high school, the main high school competitive gym, Dan Stork took care of the ordering and the meeting and so on and so forth. So the agreement that we have with Site Logic is based on a percentage, based on the dollar amount. And by removing those 2 items, it lowers the cost of the service agreement. So this is more, really probably more of an FYI that you gave the authority to sign off on this agreement. Site Logic wanted to be very transparent and say, we're changing it, we're modifying it, make sure the board's aware of it, and so to, I'm asking to approve the amendment and continue on with my authority to sign off on this service agreement.
So unless there's any other questions, we have a motion. And a second.
I make a motion to approve the amendment with Site Logic.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Engel, second by Mr. Mueller to approve the amendment to professional service agreement with Site Logic. All in favor
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list, we move into workforce.
The first one with the hiring of Dan Schmidt as a JV boys basketball coach, the intention there was that that would be a consent agenda item, as all hirings are. And so we originally put it off into something else, so Dan didn't have to abstain from the consent agenda. He would rather just abstain from this. As it turns out, not being present tonight, it probably wasn't needed, but it's better safe than sorry. So I'm recommending the approval to hire Dan Schmidt as a JV boys basketball coach.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Mr. Engel to hire Dan Schmidt as a JV boys basketball coach. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list, we have workforce hiring of a family service coordinator, Mr. Maya.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a family service coordinator. That position is typically filled through the Human Resource Center, the South Central Human Resource Center. They weren't able to fill that position, and that position is funded in part through different a grant or different grants, and then some of the funding comes through with some of the special ed cross subsidy. We can't function, we should not function with a building without a family service coordinator. It's our hope, we're crossing our fingers here a little bit, but if we post a position which in all reality has a larger salary, would be part of the teacher's contract, the insurance, the benefits, and so on and so forth, is more attractive than what they're offering through the Human Resource Center. So it's not adding a position, but it's asking for the authority to post that and fill that position internally or through our kind of our regular means. It is an extra cost. You'll just be very clear that the position as we've had it in the past, again, was funded and almost fully funded.
Yeah, 3/4.
3/4
So
funded.
they won't give us any funding if we find one on our own?
We're waiting for the answers on that.
Okay.
Um,
Did we used to work with Fernbrook? Was that Fernbrook?
we still do,
Oh,
Yeah,
but
that's
a different purpose and a
Okay.
different,
okay.
different purpose. So, by giving me the position, or giving the permission to post this, it's obviously taken that step. We still have to have applicants, we still have to have qualified people apply, interview, and if we are lucky enough to find a candidate through that, we'll come back again and ask for your approval on the hiring as we do for all hires. So, again, not a new position, just a different funding source, and it will be at a higher cost for the district, but it's absolutely positively needed, and we can't be without it.
Are we still eligible for the grants that we were using prior?
We don't know.
Okay.
My logic says, why not?
Right.
But the lettering and the language that goes along with the grants might differ than my thinking, so we're looking into it. I just don't have an answer on that.
Okay.
The grants weren't for us, the grants went to the Human Resource Center,
Okay.
and they were the housekeepers or the grant providers.
Well, unless there's any other questions, we're looking for a motion for the district hire of a family service coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Engel, second by Mr. Mueller for the hire of a district hire of a family service coordinator. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to board governance. Mr. Mayock.
Every year we set school board goals as well as the superintendent goals. Last year we had some more in-depth conversations on kind of the theory and the premise behind these goals. I would like to continue on with the same goals and the same focus areas that we have. And so I'm asking you to approve the school board goals and the superintendent performance goals that are connected with the board goals.
Any questions? If not, we have a motion and a second.
I'll move to accept the superintendent and board goals for 22-23.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schoenrock, seconded by Mrs. Engel to approve the board and superintendent goals for 2022 and 23. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to teacher development and growth plan, Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, this is a requirement by the state, and the original document that was created a few years ago had some revisions made to it. The administrative team, as well as it happened to be Ms. Bentley with our staff development committee and the EA rep, kind of a dual role that she plays. Worked on some of the changes. In our mind, we made it easier to understand or easier to follow. There was some things in there that, talked about, we will hire a teaching and learning coordinator or a curriculum instruction person, and so some of those modifications are put into it as per the statute or per the policy. The district, the staff development committee, and the EM, the teachers union, must agree to these changes. And so I'm bringing this forward, asking you to approve the changes that were made and following through the procedures as we're required to.
Are there any other questions? If not, we look for a vote.
Make a motion to approve the teacher development and growth plan.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Engel, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the teacher development and growth plan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that almost concludes the meeting, if we can get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion made by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mrs. Engel to close the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. We're done.
Very good. Well done.
Good job. Yes, you did. But I said we
Well,
did.
we're all pretty.
Yeah. I didn't think anybody was gonna not approve the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah, thanks for all your work on that. I read it. Being the weird person that I am.
Back and forth, we got it done.
Right.
Well, when we did that,
Yep.
we were under the gun.